All right, so let's do that. And if you manage to overhear our conversation, it's still not too late to say bonjour, hello, assalamu alaikum, and tenastilin.
Okay.
Tenastilin is Amharic for may God give you health. And we are so grateful that throughout this week, we have had the privilege of gathering here in this moment of profound change and challenge for us, whether it be in our homes or in our economies. So much is changing before our very eyes that it is only through values, conviction, and a shared sense of existence that we can get through. So thank you for all the hard work that you've put in ensuring that this week has gone by smoothly in what was your initiation, some might say baptism of fire, into PIDA Week, the virtual edition. Nothing can be a more superior mainstay than being able to plan in a way that allows for elasticity and the ability to adapt effectively. So as we prepare to bring this incredible week to a close, with words from our continental and South African hosts and the sharing of the official communique, I would like to let you know that we have had some terribly sad news. We heard from the South African presidency just minutes ago that the beloved minister in the presidency, Ntate Jackson Mthembu, has just passed away from COVID-related complications. And as Dr. Mayaki was sharing, many of you might have had the opportunity to interact with him at your last PIDA Week. All I can say is that the loss is acute, and to pay some words of condolences and encouragement and respect, I would like to welcome the Ambassador Ghulam Hussein Asmal from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to share some thoughts with you. And Ambassador, do accept my condolences as well.
Thank you very much, Iman, and good afternoon, colleagues. We meet at, as Iman has indicated, at a very sad moment. And the pandemic has been such that not very many families have been spared from it. We know people personally who are succumbing to the pandemic, and ministers from Malawi, Zimbabwe, and other countries have also succumbed. Minister Mthembu, as we all know, was very much larger than life. Many would know that before Minister Mthembu turns the corner, you heard his boisterous laugh and welcoming laugh. And as Dr. Mayaki was reflecting when we were off air, conferences and summits give us a lot of opportunity to interact on an informal level. And I recall at the last, before the PC, the Presidential Infrastructure Championship Initiative luncheon that we hosted in Addis Ababa, of which he was the chief architect. We sat down and we briefed him on it. And everything was, Chief, what is this? Chief, what is that? And I would laugh and say, no, Minister, you the chief, I'm the Indian. And you boisterously laugh and say, no, let's just get this over. But Iman, colleagues, it is a time to celebrate his life, but also with heavy hearts, we bear the loss of very many of our compatriots, our continent people and people in the world, as well as senior people. And we can only find solace in what my good book says, that to God do we belong and to him do we return. Thank you very much.
You couldn't have said it more aptly. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for that. I could hear the emotion in your voice, and you'll forgive, I'm sure that this platform will forgive your colleagues in South Africa who are dealing with the loss that we've only just heard about now. And thank you very much for those beautiful words and those anecdotes that you just shared with us, Ambassador Asmal. So I think, in some ways, I mean, we didn't expect the African Union anthem to be the balm of Gilead, as the Bible says, but nonetheless, it might be in this moment. So I would invite you to please pay respect to the African Union anthem, and we'll hear that now. Colleagues, are we able to cue it? We'll give it another moment or two. All right, there might be a challenge queuing the African Union anthem. I'll give it a second or two more, and then with your permission, there we go.
Africa, the tree of life. Let us
Always so powerful. And I remember at the very opening, quoting a line from the anthem, to give the best we have in Africa. And I believe in many ways that goal and objective has been accomplished this week. Let us welcome back Ambassador Ghulam Hussein Asmal, who is with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation in South Africa, to read the 6th PIDA Week communique. Ambassador Asmal.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Your Excellency Minister Delil, Dr. Mayaki, esteemed guest. The final communique of the 6th PIDA Week held from 18th to 21st January 2021. We, ministers and delegates to the 6th PIDA Week and the organizing and partners institutions, the African Union Commission, the African Union Development Agency, African Union member states, the regional economic communities, the African Development Bank, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, GIZ, the European Union, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, private sector representative, as well as distinguished invitees, express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the government of South Africa for hosting the 6th PIDA Week. Applaud the PIDA stakeholders and partners for the exceptional turnout and participation in the first ever virtual edition of PIDA Week, necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Reaffirm the crucial role of PIDA in the achievement of the main goals of the AU Agenda 2063 for continental integration, prosperity, and peace, and reiterate our commitment to regional integration and the development of integrated and efficient infrastructure through the application of sound policy and development strategies, which will enhance efficiency, sustainability, and affordability of transport, energy, ICT, and water services. We acknowledge the diligent work accomplished during 2020, which was presented in the PIDA annual implementation report, and take note with satisfaction that close to 50% of the PIDA PAP1 projects have moved beyond project preparation and are either close to financial close, tendered, under construction, or completed. We congratulate the PIDA task force institutions, that is the AUC, AUDA NEPED, the African Development Bank, and UNECA, on finalization of the PIDA PAP2 process and the development of the associated strategy documents, that is the PIDA implementation strategy, PIDA partnership strategy, and the PIDA financial agency. We welcome the update on the key milestone achievements on progress towards development and finalization of the second phase of PIDA PAP2 that has been validated by the ministerial STC meeting on the 12th of January 2021 and is to be presented for consideration by heads of state during the AU summit in February. We encourage PIDA project owners and stakeholders to diligently ensure the implementation of PIDA PAP2 projects is in line with proposed PIDA PAP2 integrated corridor approach implementation principles that promote connectivity of economic corridors built around the PIDA infrastructure sectors, namely maximization of job creation, rural-urban connectivity, climate resilience, gender responsiveness, innovation, and financial viability. We encourage PIDA stakeholders to adopt the principles espoused in the PIDA partnership strategy that will ensure a common African approach to infrastructure development partnerships. We welcome the gender responsive infrastructure development guidelines and call upon AUDA NEPED in coordination with the African Network for Women Infrastructure to maintain these guidelines in the PIDA PAP2 implementation. We take note of the critical role that soft and hard infrastructure plays towards the realization of the AFCFTA and the opportunity for PIDA PAP2 projects to emphasize appropriately designed continental infrastructure that will contribute towards building resilience against pandemics and shocks that disproportionately affect the poor and marginalized. We call upon the private sector to continue supporting the PIDA program through modalities and instruments such as the SDM 5% agenda and the CBN that support the accelerated implementation projects. We encourage partner organizations as well as bilateral development partners to provide the necessary technical and financial support for project preparation activities essential for the implementation of the second phase of PIDA Priority Action Plan projects. We urge the AUC, AUDA NEPED, and other partner organizations to work towards the attainment of the African single electricity market, the completion of the Continental Transmission Master Plan, and the acceleration of the implementation of INGA 3 hydropower and the African Integrated High-Speed Railway Network projects within the framework of the African Union Agenda 2063 flagship projects through the provisions of technical and financial support. We encourage the use of cross-sectoral approaches, including water, food, energy nexus approach to promote and demonstrate the economic viability of water projects and continent. We urge AUDA NEPED, the AUC, and regional economic communities and key institutions mandated to support the implementation of continental programs to jointly engage and align their complementary roles in implementation of PIDA to delineate roles and maximize synergies within the context of implementation of PIDA PAP2. We acknowledge that COVID has necessitated a rapid move to digitalization and the use of online technologies, and welcome AUDA NEPED's work in promoting cyber resilience through cybersecurity assessments based on the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection. We further acknowledge that cybersecurity measures are an integral part of providing e-services as envisaged by the AFCFTA, and thereupon call upon AUDA NEPED to mobilize resources and partnerships to support member states to strengthen their cyber security and cyber resilience. We call upon PIDA stakeholders to promote PIDA Quality Label as an African brand for excellence in infrastructure development process, serving to accelerate the creation of quality project lines ready for appropriately structured finance from public or private sources in the context of PIDA PAP2 and beyond. We encourage AUDA NEPED to work with partners, that is the OECD, the ACET, and GIZ, to establish an Africa-led infrastructure knowledge and peer learning platform and a community of practice of African infrastructure practitioners that work to speed up the building of capabilities of infrastructure professionals and stakeholders across Africa. We encourage AUDA NEPED and partners such as the DBSA to work with national and regional institutions on spatial decision support systems that leverage 5IR technologies to identify optimal opportunities for infrastructure investment and impact. Dated in South Africa on 21st of January 2021. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ambassador. I want to hand it over now to His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Masani Mayaki, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency. And I remember on the very first day, Dr. Mayaki, you were talking about the need to prioritize and align to really see PIDA become this effective vehicle that we expect it to be. And I wonder if at the end of what has been a profound week of discussions, whether that aspiration has been realized. It's over to you.
Okay. Mamnoonam Iman. Honorable Minister Patricia de Lille, Minister for Public Works and Infrastructure of the Government of the Republic of South Africa, Ambassador Ghulam Hussein Asmal of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation of the Government of the Republic of South Africa, distinguished representatives of the various governments, regional economic communities, and development partners in attendance today, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I feel my speech a little bit awkward, as the remembrance of Minister Jackson Mtambu is live in my mind. We met several times, but we had two very exciting moments during the PIDA week in Cairo, the last PIDA week in Cairo, and during the last African Union Summit at the end of January last year. I remember fundamentally a gentleman who was moved by a high level of motivation and passion for what he was doing, and a high level of humility. And as Ambassador Ghulam was referring to in his analogies regarding chiefs and Indians, the PC event in Addis Ababa last year was fundamentally organized by himself with his team. But he ostensibly always tried to make me play a first role. This is a characteristic of a man who had a huge confidence in himself, and at the same time did have this maturity and wisdom in order to make sure that those who were working with him felt at ease with him. So today it's really with a lot of pain that I have this memory as a Muslim, but Christians, Hinduists, and Jews in all the religions can share the same type of thinking. As Muslims, we believe fundamentally that the day of our death is inscribed in the day of our birth. So we return to Allah, and this is that belief which makes us think that any moment on this earth is worth its particular time, and it's worth living. So we are sad, but at the same time, we think about what these memories do bring to us, and we pray for his soul to rest in peace. As we conclude this 6th edition of PIDA Week, allow me to very warmly thank the government of the Republic of South Africa for hosting this important event, albeit virtually. Somehow this virtuality brought us closer. It's one of the paradoxes of digital technology. Your dedication and leadership in partnering with us, referring to our South African colleagues, to host this event show your continued commitment to PIDA implementation and the attainment of Agenda 2063, which is our shared vision for the continent. Over the last 4 days, as Iman said, we have engaged in discussions that have been taken stock of the progress made in PIDA implementation and looked ahead in the second phase, which is PIDA PAP 2. I have had the privilege of participating in some of these discussions, and it is gratifying to see the level of discourse and the concrete ideas and recommendations that have resulted. This is my last PIDA week because, as you all know, I'm leaving this position of CEO of AUDA NEPAD, and the incoming CEO, who is extremely competent, will make sure that PIDA's implementation continues its course. So I'm somehow also a bit emotional on this because we started the first PIDA week with the African Development Bank, and it has grown. But that emotion, beyond being a nostalgia, is fundamentally a recognition that none of the things we have achieved was isolated. This was the result of a collective behavior with very strong actors who did support us. And in this particular PIDA week, the support of the government of the Republic of South Africa was absolutely critical and essential. While noting that the various deliberations will be captured in the PIDA week report and that essential steps needed to move us forward are captured in the communique, which was just read by Ambassador Ghulam, allow me to elaborate on a few key themes that have stood out, and I will elaborate on three. The first one will be funding, the second one, governance, and the third one, inclusiveness and resilience. Regarding funding, we need to continue devising efficient and innovative ways of funding our infrastructure, even in the face of shrinking fiscal space, as is currently evident. The aspect of sustainable financing of early stage project preparation cannot be overemphasized. Without well-prepared projects, we will be shooting in the dark and unable to move projects to bankability and hence full implementation. So it is time for us to look for ways to pool resources across our various institutions to support early stage project preparation. We wait in anticipation for the PIDA PAP 2 financing strategy being developed by the African Development Bank and expect that it will address this important issue. Secondly, regarding governance, as I mentioned in my remarks on Tuesday, at AUDA NEPAD, we have over the years organically and through learning by doing, developed instruments that we are now using to advance PIDA implementation. The service delivery mechanism, the PIDA quality label, the PIDA job creation toolkit, and the Continental Business Network have all featured in the discussion this week. These instruments cannot stand on their own without the requisite institutional architecture that underpins their use. In developing the PIDA implementation strategy, we have taken this into account and incorporated the institutional architecture for infrastructure development in Africa, PIDA, as a pivotal part of our infrastructure delivery model. Furthermore, drawing on lessons from PIDA PAP 1, we have adapted the usage of the institutional framework to clearly illustrate the roles and responsibilities of relevant stakeholders and the associated instruments across the entire value chain of project implementation. We have learned and we are doing. Regarding inclusiveness and resilience, these are themes that have also come out strongly in the discussions this week. Much has been said about the need to ensure that infrastructure serves the needs of Africa's people, and in this regard, the linkages of transboundary infrastructure to national infrastructure and hence urban-rural linkages are paramount. Furthermore, we know that with significant populations living in border towns and deriving livelihoods from informal cross-border trade, infrastructure must be built to meet their needs where they are. This is how we will extend the benefits of the Continental Free Trade Agreement to ordinary citizens on our continent. The most important citizens on our continent are these ordinary citizens in the noble sense of the word. Gender inclusiveness is linked to that and is another very important dimension, which has been ably articulated by the African Network for Women in Infrastructure through GRID, G-R-I-D, which is the Gender Responsive Infrastructure Development Guidelines. We need to make sure that these guidelines are part and parcel of the implementation of PIDA PAP2. Turning to resilience, we need to continue developing a sustainable and quality infrastructure designed with environmental considerations in mind. The future of infrastructure is green, needs to be green, and we need to build this into the projects that we implement under PIDA PAP2. This will require us to leverage multi-sectoral coordination as envisaged by the integrated corridor approach. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, Ambassador Ghulam, in conclusion, although we have seen tangible results in the implementation of PIDA, it is clear that the prevailing context of the COVID-19 pandemic, in the prevailing context, we need to be ready to pivot and adapt, renewing our strategies to respond with flexibility and to respond adequately to a changing world. This will enable us to sustain the gains that we have made, even as we consider how we will effectively implement the PIDA PAP2 projects in the years to come. So I take this opportunity to sincerely thank you very warmly for your continued support to PIDA and to Auda NEPAD. And Iman, as the moderator of all these sessions, I would like to express my sincere admiration to the work that you have done. You are now part of this PIDA family. I thank you.
Oh, that's so special. Thank you so much, Dr. Miyake. And, you know, technology is often accused of being cold, but I certainly felt your heart during those sentiments you expressed earlier, both about Ntate Jackson Mthembu, but also about you transitioning to your next chapter. So allow me to congratulate you on your next step and next be baptized in abundance and true peace. So congratulations and good luck to you too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead. Sorry, I don't know if you wanted to say something else. Okay. Let me welcome Mrs. Patricia de Lille, the South African Minister for Public Works and Infrastructure. I can tell you that she is a formidable politician and someone affectionately known as Auntie Pat. So it is over to you, Minister. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. And to you as well, we'd like to extend our heartfelt condolences.
Thank you so much, Program Director Iman. It's lovely to see you again. I would like to request that we do have a moment of silence for the departure of our colleague, our brother, who really is a real Pan-Africanist, who really cared for this continent. So, Program Director, with your permission, can we have a moment of silence, please?
We can do that right now. Thank you so much, Auntie Pat.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Iman. Well, let me say good afternoon, assalamu alaikum to all of you, and greet Ambassador Ghulam Asmal from DIRCO, all national ministers and officials that are also on the platform, His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mahaki, our CEO, as I learned now, outgoing CEO of the African Development Agency, His Excellency Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union Commission, all our regional and international experts and stakeholders in infrastructure, our development institutions, the business councils, representatives from the public and private sector. I greet you in the name of our great country, South Africa. And it's really a great honor to join all of you today as part of the closing session and a whole week of deliberation and engagement in the 6th program for the infrastructure development in Africa event. I've always believed that governments must lead an infrastructure investment so that we create the conditions conducive for our economies to grow and to create jobs. Jobs that are so desperately needed in our continent. Investment by government will create the crowding in effect by the private sector. And we need to form more partnerships with the private sector because as governments, we cannot do it alone. Africa is a proud continent and with unlimited potential. And indeed, over the past decades, especially many of our nations have emerged from a very sad past where we had to address the injustices, the imbalances of the past, emerging out of our colonial past. And Africa is on the rise and has always been on the rise. The gathering and the existence of PIDA indeed also speaks to the opening of our proud African continent anthem that we have just sung. And I would just like to quote, "Let us all unite and celebrate together. The victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together, to defend our liberty and unity," end quote. As Africa, we are now walking towards the African Union 2063 goals. And the signing of the African Free Trade Agreement that came into effect on the 1st of January 2020 is a critical step that the continent has taken. It signals the intent that African countries are ready to work together towards shared values, shared benefits, and shared prosperity. Once it is fully implemented in operational, the African Free Trade Agreement could be the world's biggest fully realized free trade zone in the world. The African bloc has a potential market of 1.3 billion people and a combined gross domestic product of just over 2.5 trillion US dollars. There I say that Africa has found her feet. The task ahead of all of us is immense, and the responsibilities of the implementation of the African Free Trade Agreement rest with all of us. It is also essential that we lay a solid foundation which will enable and give life to the African Free Trade Agreement. An infrastructure investment and delivery is the catalyst towards economic transformation, but it is equally critical that we sustain the moment. The Free Trade Agreement is dependent on trade between African countries, and the trade is enabled by infrastructure links such as our roads, our rail, our ports, airports, because this is the foundation of the implementation for the Free Trade Agreement. I'm very pleased that significant progress has been made in this regard. And then I just want to speak to a few highlights of the PIDA week, which we can all be proud of as Africans. And the first one is the PIDA quality label, a vehicle to enhance project preparations through service delivery mechanism. And I do agree that the goal is to shorten the period needed to reach feasibility and bankability stages of projects. Also in identifying bottlenecks in project preparation, and then advising the owners of the projects about any possible problems up front. This is a critical step in accelerating infrastructure project development. And in South Africa, we have certainly started. We have persuaded the National Treasury to make available 440 million rand to invest in project preparation, because we now accept and understand the importance of project preparation. If we can all have standardized processes for all projects to be structured and evaluated in the early stages of the preparation, we can de-risk all of these projects. And by doing that, by de-risking the project, we can prevent delays in implementation, we can prevent overruns of the project, and we can complete projects on time and on budget. So project preparation certainly is a key component of the PIDA plan that we must not just implement. I've noticed that of the current 329 PIDA projects, that about 24%, 81 projects are in the project preparation and pre-feasibility stages, with about 9.7%, 32 projects in the feasibility stages. So it is happening. And, you know, with the new methodology that PIDA has introduced, it will certainly assist us to speed up project preparation. And I'm very happy to note that more than 50% of the projects have moved beyond project preparation stage. So the PIDA quality labels should become a replicable tool for all African countries to accelerate their projects through the preparation phases. The second point that I want to highlight of your discussions during the week is the Job Creation Toolkit as an online platform to assist users to estimate job creation potential in developing infrastructure projects in Africa. It is a very useful tool to create more opportunities through regional economic growth and allow us to identify and capitalize from Africa's demographic dividend. Thirdly, the Presidential Infrastructure Champion Initiative showcases the political will of our leaders to drive the infrastructure in our continent. We need to drive the projects towards delivery and completion. Then I've looked at the PIDA Priority Action Plan adopted for 2012 to 2020. And it detailed the immediate actionable projects and programs, which will also promote regional integration. And I've noted that the first PIDA action plan had 51 cross-border programs divided into over 400 projects in the sectors of energy, transport, ICT, transport, border, water projects. So I'm also pleased to note that while this was an ambitious target that was set, that more than 25%, 102 of these projects are already finding themselves in the construction and tendering stages, and 76 projects in the operational stage. And now the PIDA PAC 2 is kicking off with a more focused target of delivering approximately 73 projects for implementation over the next 3 years. And as we connect to various industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, and service industries, it is important to bring the youth along with us in this journey, as they are the generation that will see Africa rise even further. The infrastructure industry is also very male-dominated, and we must also ensure that women and people with disabilities play an active role in the development and the building of infrastructure. I've seen the World Economic Forum projections that by 2050, out of every 5 children born in the world, 2 will be born in Africa. And the urban population is expected to triple by then. We've seen urbanization all over the continent where people are migrating to cities, and we must build cities, new cities, that is well located, well connected, and that all our plans must be green. We must look at climate change, we must bring in technology. So there is a need to build more new cities in Africa. And certainly in South Africa, one of my performance agreements targets is that the president has asked me to start looking at building a new city in South Africa. Africa's young population is a great advantage for the continent, and we must involve the youth at all levels. The youth have a critical role to play in moving the continent forward. It would be to the detriment of Africa if the youth were to be neglected. If ours is to lay the foundation for the continent, then for the youth, it is to build on that foundation. The youth now have an opportunity together with us to design their own future. We also know that we are a continent rich in resources, rich in our diversity, and now we must be rich in our implementation too. We must be focused, we must prioritize, and we must be intentional in all our efforts. Alignment of all partners with the established frameworks and priorities as set out in the PIDA Priority Action Plan 2 is critical for achieving our infrastructure goals as Africa, which sits well within the chosen theme of the gathering for this year, speaks about a new decade, new realities, and new priorities. For me, the emphasis is on new priorities. To position PIDA and infrastructure development in Africa's continent to further create economic growth. Then I also echo the sentiments of Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor earlier this week, and that is that PIDA was designed to mobilize resources, to transform our infrastructure, as well as modernize our infrastructure in order to integrate the African continent and the world. And achieving these goals can only be done through our collective effort as member states, close quote. I wish to add to what Dr. Naledi Pandor said, that we also do need to ensure that we have effective coordination across regional and continental institutions to avoid duplication, especially during this time of scarce resources that we find ourselves in. Africa must improve our port infrastructure to enhance the export of goods into the global market. It is in the areas of road, rail, and air where our efforts need strengthening, as well as this will facilitate interregional trade within the African countries. We must be competitive in our trade efforts, as logistic costs are one of the significant contributors that make it difficult for us to be competitive within both the global and the local markets. Furthermore, we need to ensure that the multilateral banks and development finance institutions are aligned to the goals and objectives of Africa. We set the criteria and the agenda for our own development, and the FDIs and the MDBs need to support the agenda set by us. Infrastructure investment also has a social component that is equally important for social cooperation, which ultimately contributes to continental peace, security, and stability. In conclusion, Madam Program Director, we have the benefit of foresight. We must learn from our global peers and integrate those learnings so that we avoid making the same mistakes in our efforts. On the other side of the coin, we must take the good that is available, such as technological developments, designing for climate change, resilience, integrated supply chain, and collective bargaining as we take these strides forward. Ladies and gentlemen, as I thank you for all the hard work that you've put in, let us leave here today ready to walk the talk. Implementation, implementation, and implementation. The dreams and aspiration of the African people requires us all to do things differently, to work with urgency and create cities and countries that are clean, compact, and connected, where jobs are created and people and families can thrive in our continent. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that address. Really appreciate it. And as you outlined there, and other speakers have outlined, the architecture for Africa's progress is on the table. We must encourage our respective governments to continue the work with renewed vigor and effective collaboration. I think that's what you referenced there as well. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really do appreciate it. I think it's apt to end with just a little bit of what one of our participants, actually one of our speakers earlier this week and participants has had to say. And I'll go straight to the bottom. And this is Dr. Kamugisha Kazaura, who said, I commend the Ouder NEPAD for the very successful PIDA week. These sessions were well organized, providing a platform for rich discussions. And that toolkit the minister mentioned, along with other conference resources, are available on the virtual PIDA Information Center. It is au-pida.org. I just want to thank all the support staff, all the speakers, the guests, the participants for the incredible work that you've put in this week and for staying with us until the very end. I really do encourage you to stay safe and to stay healthy. See you again next year. Hopefully it will be face-to-face. And since I've now been invited to be part of the PIDA family, maybe we'll meet again. Be safe and bonne chance. Au revoir.
Thank you so much, Iman, and God bless.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much.